Sometimes it's nice to be able to have an inspector tool for our HTTP calls, much the same as I have in used in Windows when I'm using something like Postman or so we can do the equivalent to this with this Alice package, which we can install from packages/Alice, and it'll just let us, it catches and stores our HTTP requests and responses. So I just took and added this package and to my Flutter login example code, and so if we look at our pubspec.yaml, we will see in here I just somewhere I added Alice, and this is the current version. So now when I do this, I can take a look at my application here. I'm just show the result first, and I have we'll just log in something. And we'll look at the resultant calls. And it takes me to I'm logged in. Now I made this is again that secure call to my server, and the only thing I'm showing here is show inspector. Now this is I had to add to the navigation this so I can get into my inspector and see my calls. And the first one here is my post. This is the post for where I logged in my user, and we can see the server address. Of course, I'm running on my local host, and I have to use this magic 10.0.2.2 so we can get to localhost. And and our endpoint is token, so we can get logged into the ASP.NET identity. And the cool thing here, so we can see our request, and where in the body we're passing our username and password, and then our response. And most importantly here, when we see in our body, we have our access token, and this is the OAuth token that we need to make our ensuing calls, and which is used here. So we go back and we look at our next call, which was once we got logged in, we did this get and to user info, but this is a secure call, and we had to pass, and we can look in here and see our authorization, and we did our we set to the OAuth token and our response. So pretty nifty. So and this can be easily added. Let's take a look at how I added this. So let's look at the changes we had to make. I passed Alice. I just modified my constructor in auth ASP, which contains all my calls to my server, and I'm going to pass in my constructor now. I'm going to pass in the instance of Alice, and then it's best to use this DIO package with Alice, because it lets us use these interceptors that we need to be able to grab the headers and the responses, and which we're doing right here. And then I made no other changes here to my code, and except I had to add one statement down here to grab the response, and this also gets my request. And now if I was using the DIO package, then I wouldn't even have to do this. But quite frankly, I don't like the DIO syntax. I prefer the HTTP, so I use it. Then adding one line of code to me is no big deal. I also did the same thing down here in my user info call, which and I had the same line here. Now, how did I instantiate this? Well, I'm back in main.dart. When I create I create my auth ASP, and I just new up Alice and telling Alice that we want to show our notifications. Now, if this was set to false, we wouldn't collect any information. Had to make one, so we had to make one that only collects the information. And back on the home page, I had to make another little change here, and I had to add this with the material app. There's a navigation key, and I have to set this to the Alice navigator key, so we're able to use to see the Alice UI. And that's it. And then I'm able to get that pretty cool logging information that I think could be quite valuable if we run into issues with our HTTP calls.